There's lots of conversations, Daniel, about, the most prolific serial killer, child serial killer. And, I worry a little bit that this is going to become this big drama, and I give it 5 minutes before, TV stations are making, documentaries and programmes and all the rest of it. But, this is... words almost fail me, and that is very rare that happens to me, but words almost fail me because I know how tiny these children are. And I just think, how can you... I'm not excusing murder at the best of time, but to these tiny little vulnerable children, I can't process it.
Well, if you need any proof that there is such a thing as evil in the world, this is proof of it, isn't it? I mean, this is completely evil. And there's no way in which you can begin to understand what was going on inside the mind of the person who did this, knowing that, was there a thrill to it? I mean, knowing that she'd been entrusted with this and fighting back the whole time. When she was suspected, she didn't say, well, that's my chance to get out now, I'll stop doing this. No, she fought back with a grievance complaint so that she could get back on the ward, which didn't actually happen because she was arrested in time, and so on. All of that seems to have come out now. And so she was absolutely determined that she was going to carry on doing this, and this was her life's work, and she'd carry on doing it until she stopped. There's no other way of thinking about that except as really objectively evil.
Yeah, and James, the thing that gets me, I've spent 6 weeks on the NICU ward with my little one, and it's like one of the most intense experiences you will ever have as a parent. The beeps are constantly there. You're constantly measuring the stats, the vitals on these screens. You go to sleep, if you manage to sleep, hearing all of these beeps and the alarms. They're such intense units. And you almost become, not a family, I don't want to exaggerate, it's not family, but you almost become this connection that you share with the staff members that look after your little ones when you go home at night. You can contact these units 24/7. How can you betray? There's no answers to this, but it's just, I have so many questions in my head towards this lady. How can you betray your trust like that? Words fail me.
Yeah, it's completely horrible and unexplainable. But, the one sort of positive thing in it, perhaps, is that it was the doctors also in the unit who were the ones that worked out that there were babies that were dying that shouldn't die, and then they worked out that it was her that was the one that was most likely doing it because she was on duty all of those times. So there was this, catastrophic failure with this, seemingly extremely evil person who then was protected, it seems, for a while by the managers in her hospital, while the doctors, the ones on the ward, who had a pretty fair idea and turned out to be entirely right that that she was responsible for this, and they kept on fighting. They've saved more lives by continuing to fight, by taking the disciplinary, by fighting their own management.
Yeah, and actually, when you read into all of the details of this, some of these consultants, they were raising concerns. And then there were suggestions that they perhaps have to go to mediation, some of the doctors with Lucy Letby. There was an email apology sent to Lucy Letby for some of the things that had been said about her. It just all beggars belief. I'm absolutely disgusted by the fact that in this country, a criminal in this way can just decide that I'm not going to go into the court and hear my sentencing, hear the verdicts, whatever it is. I think it's fundamentally wrong that you can just choose to sit in your cell. I think it's the final insult to the families of the victims. Do you think people should be compelled, whether in law or otherwise, to be in court for these kind of moments?
Yeah, I think they should. I think people shouldn't have a choice about it. Justice, there's an old saying that justice needs to be seen to be done. And the sentencing is part of it. And I do think that this idea that serious criminals should be allowed to say, well, I'll just opt out from that and I'll stay home, watch the telly or something, is completely unacceptable. And I think the public and justice at large require that they be brought to the court. Now, I understand that will create management issues if they're going to be difficult and they have to be dragged there and whatever. But they shouldn't have a choice. They should be there to hear the sentence and to be taken down. And we should be able to see that. We and the families and the
What we? So you think it should be a public kind of...
Well, increasingly, sentencing is being broadcast.
Yeah, but you only really see the judge, though. You don't really see the convicted.
Okay, but we want to know when we do see the judge that he's talking to somebody and not to empty air.
True. What do you make of that?
But there's also the families in the court and the victims in the court and the other people who have sat through the trial. They would be there and they would see the sentence being delivered. And I think it should be mandatory.
Do you think it should be mandatory to face your kind of outcomes?
Yeah, there's maybe a case that if you don't, it's contempt of court. But I think practically, if someone doesn't want to go and they're dragged there and they're being disruptive, they're going to be removed from the court for being disruptive. So, I mean, ultimately, if somebody is not going to behave properly, you can't make them behave properly. You know, we want...
Well, I would strap them to I don't know what they call them. I'd strap them to something. And if you can't keep your trap shut and be respectful, I would actually put a gag around you and I would make you, whether I've got to have you upright on a board or something, I would have you in that dock. I would make you face the people that you have taken their loved ones from. And I would literally put a gag in it if you couldn't keep your trap shut. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know whether that's that's what victims want or not, and I think it should probably be guided by that. I think the more significant thing to look at is how we would stop, cases like this happening again. What are the safeguards that can be put in place? How can we listen more to the doctors and the professionals and less to the managers and the executives?
Yeah, and I think this hospital, it had something like, 2 or 3 deaths in the neonatal unit on average a year. So, of course, here we're talking about 7 murders and multiple other attempted murders. I think there's been 1 since Lucy Letby was taken away from that hospital. So that gives you some of the context. We've got the sentencing on Monday. Of course, we're just saying Lucy Letby will not be present, which I think is quite frankly disgusting. I don't know who you think you are. I will be debating that, the sentence that she receives with Peter Hitchens and the former barrister Alex Dean as well on Monday. I'm fascinated to hear that conversation because personally, if you ask me, I think the death penalty is the way we should be going towards people like this. I suspect that some of you at home might have a different view to me. But you know what? Pure evil, Lucy Letby. And my thoughts, my heart is with all of the families that know they've been affected, but also the families that are going to bed tonight wondering whether or not they have been affected with the deaths of their children too. There are no words. It's just utter evil. I'm going to take a